Here's something that will shock you to your core. A teenage boy watches his younger brother die from brain cancer, then makes a promise at the funeral that seems impossible. He swears he'll become the greatest cricket player in the world and dedicate every single run to his dead brother's memory. 28 years later, that promise has been kept in the most spectacular way imaginable. But here's the twist that nobody saw coming. This story isn't just about cricket records that still stand today. It's about a man who built a secret empire worth $10 million while saving hundreds of lives through a foundation nobody talks about. I'm about to reveal the complete untold story of Mahela Jayawardene that will change everything you think you know about success, sacrifice, and what it really means to be a champion. If you've ever wondered how someone can turn the worst tragedy of their life into unlimited motivation, stick with me because the next 25 minutes will blow your mind. But before we dive deep into this incredible journey, smash that subscribe button and ring the notification bell because you're about to discover secrets that even die-hard cricket fans have never heard before. And trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. The story begins on May 27, 1977, in Colombo, Sri Lanka, where a baby boy was born into a completely ordinary middle-class family that had zero connections to professional cricket. His father Sinarath worked as a simple banker, counting other people's money 8 hours a day, while his mother Sunila managed their modest household with the discipline of a military general. Nobody in this family had ever played cricket at any serious level. Nobody had connections to the national team. And nobody could have predicted that this quiet baby would one day rewrite the record books of international cricket. But here's where the story takes its first unexpected turn. Young Mahela wasn't even the most athletic kid in his neighborhood. He was skinny, wore thick glasses, and spent more time reading books than playing sport. His parents were so worried about his lack of physical activity that they literally forced him to join the cricket team at Mahela College, thinking it would just help him make some friends and get some exercise. What happened next was nothing short of miraculous, because the moment this shy, bookish teenager picked up a cricket bat, something clicked in his brain that would eventually make him one of the most feared batsmen on the planet. At Mahela College, something extraordinary started happening that nobody could explain. This quiet kid who barely spoke in class was suddenly displaying batting skills that made grown men stop and stare. His school coach later said that watching young Mahela bat was like watching Mozart play piano. It was so natural and beautiful that it almost didn't seem human. He would walk to the crease with this calm confidence that made opposing bowlers nervous before they even delivered their first ball. His technique was flawless, his timing was perfect, and his shot selection was so intelligent that cricket experts from around the country started making special trips just to watch this teenager play. But here's the part that really set him apart from every other talented young player. Mahela never celebrated his centuries with wild excitement like other kids. Instead, he would quietly look up at the sky and whisper something that nobody could hear. Years later, we would learn that he was already talking to his younger brother Dishal, telling him about every run he scored, every boundary he hit, every small victory he achieved on the cricket field. Then tragedy struck in the most devastating way possible. When Mahela was just 16 years old, his beloved younger brother Dishal was diagnosed with aggressive brain tumor that doctors said was almost certainly fatal. The family spent months going from hospital to hospital, trying every treatment available, spending money they didn't have, praying for miracles that never came. Mahela watched his little brother, who was only 12 years old, fight this disease with more courage than most adults show in their entire lives. Dishal never complained about the pain, never asked why this was happening to him, and never stopped believing that everything would work out fine. But the cancer was too strong, too fast, too cruel, and after 8 months of fighting, little Dishal lost his battle. The funeral was the darkest day in the Jayawardene family's history, with relatives and friends gathering to say goodbye to a child who should have had his whole life ahead of him. That's when 16-year-old Mahela stood up in front of everyone and made a promise that seemed completely impossible at the time. He swore on his brother's grave that he would become the greatest cricket player Sri Lanka had ever produced, and that every run he scored, every record he broke, every victory he achieved would be dedicated to Dishal's memory. Most people thought this was just the emotional words of a grieving teenager, but Mahela meant every single word with an intensity that was almost frightening. From that day forward, he trained like a man possessed, spending 12 hours a day at the cricket ground, practicing until his hands bled and his body collapsed from exhaustion. His coaches were amazed by his dedication, but they were also worried that he was pushing himself too hard, burning out before he even got a chance to play professional cricket. But Mahela had discovered something powerful about himself. Grief could be transformed into fuel, pain could become power, and the memory of his dead brother could give him strength that other players could never understand. He started scoring runs at a rate that seemed almost supernatural, breaking school records that had stood for decades, leading his team to victories that nobody thought were possible. Cricket scouts from around the country were now paying serious attention to this young player who seemed to have unlimited potential and an unbreakable will to succeed. At 18 years old, Mahela made his first-class debut for Sinhalese Sports Club, and the cricket world immediately realized they were witnessing something special. His first professional innings was a masterclass in technique, temperament and tactical intelligence that made veteran players shake their heads in amazement. He didn't just score runs, he dismantled bowling attacks with surgical precision, finding gaps in the field that seemed impossible, playing shots that other batsmen couldn't even imagine. The newspapers started calling him the artist, because his batting was so beautiful to watch, so perfectly crafted, so elegant in its execution. But what really impressed the experts was his mental strength under pressure. In crucial moments when other young players would crack under the stress, Mahela seemed to get calmer, more focused, more determined to succeed. It was clear that this wasn't just natural talent. This was a young man who had learned to channel his deepest pain into extraordinary performance, and that combination was about to make him unstoppable on the international stage. The call-up to the Sri Lankan national team came in 1997 when Mahela was just 20 years old, and his test debut against India was nothing short of sensational. Walking out to bat in front of 50,000 screaming fans, facing some of the best bowlers in the world, carrying the hopes of an entire nation on his shoulders. This was the moment that would define whether he was truly destined for greatness or just another talented youngster who couldn't handle the pressure of international cricket. The Indian bowling attack was legendary, featuring players who had destroyed batting lineups around the world, and they were confident they could intimidate this young Sri Lankan into submission. They were about to learn a lesson they would never forget, because Mahela played an innings that announced his arrival on the world stage in the most spectacular way possible. He scored runs with such ease and elegance that the Indian captain ran out of bowling options, changing his field settings every few overs, trying desperately to find some way to contain this batting genius who seemed to have an answer for everything they threw at him. But the performance that truly established Mahela as one of the greatest batsmen of his generation came in June 2000. South Africa had one of the most feared bowling attacks in world cricket, with fast bowlers who could intimidate even the bravest batsmen and spinners who could make the ball do things that seemed to defy the laws of physics. They arrived in Sri Lanka confident they could dominate this series and prove their superiority over the home team. What happened next was a batting display so extraordinary, so perfectly executed, so mentally tough, that it's still talked about by cricket experts nearly 20 years later. Mahela walked to the crease when Sri Lanka was in a difficult position, needing someone to play a big innings to save the match and possibly the series. Instead of just surviving, he decided to destroy the South African bowling attack in a way that nobody had ever done before in Sri Lankan cricket history. Day one of his innings was a masterclass in patience and technique, as he carefully studied each bowler, identified their weaknesses, and began to build his score run by run. The South African captain was confident they could get him out quickly, but as the hours passed and Mahela continued to score runs with increasing confidence, doubts started creeping into their minds. By the end of the first day, he was 50 not out, looking completely comfortable against bowling that had terrorized batsmen around the world. Day 2 was when the real magic started happening, as Mahela began to accelerate his scoring rate, finding the boundaries more frequently, playing shots that made the crowd gasp in amazement. His technique was so perfect that even the South African players stopped to watch some of his strokes, admiring the artistry of a true master at work. By the end of day 2, he had reached 50 not out, and cricket fans around the world were starting to realize they were witnessing something truly special. Day 3 was when Mahela moved into territory that very few batsmen in cricket history have ever reached, passing 250 runs and showing no signs of fatigue or loss of concentration. The South African bowlers were getting desperate, trying everything in their arsenal: short balls, yorkers, slower deliveries, different field settings. But nothing could stop this batting machine, who seemed to have an answer for every problem they present. The crowd was on their feet for almost every shot, sensing that they were witnessing history in the making, watching one of their heroes perform feats that they would tell their grandchildren about decades later. Sports commentators were running out of superlatives to describe what they were seeing, comparing Mahela's innings to the greatest batting performances in cricket history, while former players were saying they had never seen anything quite like this combination of technical perfection and mental fortitude. Then came day 4, the day that would etch Mahela's name into cricket's Hall of Fame forever. He continued his relentless march toward cricket immortality, passing 300 runs, then 350, then approaching the magical figure of 400 that only a handful of batsmen in cricket history have ever reached. The entire cricket world was watching now, with television audiences breaking records as fans tuned in to witness this extraordinary feat. At 374 runs, Mahela finally gave his wicket away, but what he had achieved was nothing short of miraculous: the highest test score ever made by a Sri Lankan player, the 4th highest individual score in the entire history of Test cricket, and a batting display that redefined what was possible for players from smaller cricket nations. But here's the most incredible part of this story: when he finally walked off the field after nearly 15 hours of batting, Mahela didn't pump his fists in celebration or take a victory lap around the ground. Instead, he quietly looked up at the sky and whispered, "This one's for you, Dishal," dedicating his greatest achievement to the memory of his beloved younger brother who had died 8 years earlier. The partnership between Mahela and Kumar Sangakkara became the stuff of legends, a batting combination so perfectly synchronized that they seemed to read each other's minds on the cricket field. These two friends from Sri Lanka created magic together that cricket historians say may never be repeated, building partnerships that rescued their team from impossible situations and setting records that still stand today. Their understanding was almost telepathic. They would communicate with just a glance, a nod, or a subtle gesture, coordinating their running between the wickets with precision that made other teams jealous. But their greatest achievement came during another test match against South Africa, when they decided to rewrite the record books in a way that left the cricket world speechless. Sri Lanka was in deep trouble, having lost early wickets, and facing the possibility of a humiliating defeat against one of the world's best teams. That's when these two batting artists came together at the crease and began constructing what would become the greatest partnership in Test cricket history. For more than 12 hours of playing time, Mahela and Sangakkara batted together with a level of concentration and skill that defied belief. They faced over 1,000 deliveries from world-class bowlers, never losing focus, never making crucial mistakes, constantly communicating and encouraging each other through the mental and physical challenges of such an enormous task. Cricket experts say that what they achieved requires not just individual skill, but a level of trust and understanding between two players that can only develop over years of playing together, supporting each other through victories and defeats, building a friendship that goes far deeper than just cricket. Their partnership eventually reached 60 toward runs, setting a world record that may never be broken because it requires two batsmen to be absolutely perfect for an entire day of Test cricket. When they finally walked off the field together, having saved their team and created cricket history. The image of these two friends embracing became one of the most iconic photographs in Sri Lankan sport, representing not just individual achievement, but the power of teamwork and friendship. Leadership came naturally to Mahela, and when he was appointed captain of the Sri Lankan cricket team in 2006, many people wondered if this quiet, thoughtful man had the personality to lead a team of superstars through the pressures of international cricket. Traditional cricket captains were often loud, aggressive leaders who motivated their teams through fear and intimidation, but Mahela represented a completely different approach to leadership that would revolutionize how the game was played. His captaincy style was based on respect, trust and leading by example rather than shouting orders and demanding obedience. He believed that players performed best when they felt valued and supported, when they understood their roles clearly, and when they had complete confidence in their captain's tactical decision. This philosophy was about to be tested in the biggest cricket tournament in the world, the 2007 Cricket World Cup, where Sri Lanka would need to overcome stronger, more experienced teams to have any chance of success. The tournament started disastrously for Sri Lanka, with early losses that had critics questioning Mahela's captaincy and calling for changes to the team leadership. The pressure was enormous, with an entire nation expecting their team to perform well on cricket's biggest stage, while media commentators were suggesting that Mahela was too soft, too gentle, too nice to be an effective captain in high-pressure situations. But what these critics didn't understand was that Mahela's leadership style was actually his greatest strength, creating a team environment where players felt free to express themselves, take calculated risks, and play with the confidence that comes from knowing your captain believes in you completely. The turning point came in the semi-final against New Zealand, when Sri Lanka was chasing a challenging target in a match that would determine whether they reached their first World Cup final in 12 years. When Mahela walked to the crease with his team in serious trouble, needing someone to play the innings of their life to keep their World Cup dreams alive, he delivered one of the greatest pressure performances in cricket history. With millions of Sri Lankan fans watching on television, with his teammates depending on him, with critics waiting to pounce on any failure, Mahela played with a calmness and precision that seemed almost supernatural. He constructed his innings like an architect designing a masterpiece, carefully building his score while managing the required run rate, rotating the strike to keep the pressure on the opposition, and finding the boundaries when his team needed them most. His century in that semi-final was more than just a great batting performance. It was a statement about leadership under pressure, about staying calm when everything around you is chaotic, about taking responsibility when your team needs you most. Sri Lanka reached the World Cup final for the first time since 1996, and although they lost that final match, Mahela had proven that his unique leadership style could take teams to places they had never been before. The ultimate vindication of Mahela's leadership philosophy came 7 years later in 2014, when Sri Lanka won the ICC World 2020 tournament in Bangladesh under his captaincy. This was their chance to finally win a major global tournament, to prove that a small island nation could compete with cricket's traditional powerhouses and emerge victorious on the biggest stage. The competition was fierce, with teams like India, Australia, and England bringing star-studded lineups and enormous resources to the tournament, while Sri Lanka was considered an outsider with little chance of winning the title. But Mahela had built something special with this team, a group of players who trusted each other completely, who played for the team rather than individual glory, who had bought into their captain's vision of what was possible when talented individuals worked together toward a common goal. The tournament unfolded like a fairy tale for Sri Lanka, with the team playing inspired cricket and defeating stronger opponents through a combination of skill, strategy and sheer determination. In the final against India, with over 400 million television viewers watching across the subcontinent, Sri Lanka faced their biggest test under Mahela's leadership. India set a challenging target that would require near-perfect execution from the Sri Lankan batting lineup, and the pressure on the team was enormous as they began their chase. This was the moment when Mahela's leadership qualities shone brightest. Instead of giving tactical speeches or motivational talks, he simply gathered his teammates in a circle and reminded them to play with joy, to remember why they started playing cricket in the first place, to trust their abilities and support each other no matter what happened. The result was a batting performance of such quality and composure that Sri Lanka cruised to victory, winning their first ICC World 2020 title and sparking celebrations across the island nation that lasted for weeks. When Mahela retired from international cricket in 2015, many people assumed his story was ending, that he would fade into the background like so many former players who struggle to find relevance after their playing careers are over. They couldn't have been more wrong, because retirement was actually the beginning of the most impactful phase of Mahela's life, when he would prove that his influence extended far beyond just playing cricket. His transition into coaching was seamless, with the Mumbai Indians in the Indian Premier League recognizing that his tactical intelligence and leadership skills could help them build a championship-winning team. Under his guidance as head coach, Mumbai Indians became the most successful franchise in IPL history, winning multiple titles through a combination of smart player selection, innovative strategies, and the kind of calm leadership that Mahela had perfected during his playing career. But coaching was just one aspect of Mahela's post-cricket success story. His work as a television commentator brought his analytical skills and deep understanding of the game to millions of cricket fans around the world, making complex tactical concepts accessible to casual viewers, while providing insights that even experienced players found valuable. His business ventures in Sri Lanka have been equally successful, with investments in restaurants, real estate and hospitality that have generated substantial wealth while creating employment opportunities for hundreds of people. As of 2025, Mahela's net worth is estimated approximately $10 million, accumulated through a combination of playing contracts, coaching fees, commentary work, endorsement deals and smart business investments that have continued to grow in value over the year. His lifestyle reflects his personality, elegant but never flashy, comfortable but not ostentatious, focused on family and relationships rather than material possession. His car collection includes a Mercedes-Benz S-Class for formal occasions, a BMW X5 for family trips, and a Range Rover Vogue for navigating Sri Lanka's challenging road conditions. But he's never been one to show off his wealth or use expensive possessions as status symbol. His home in Colombo is a beautiful blend of modern comfort and traditional Sri Lankan design, featuring open spaces that connect with the natural environment, a garden where he spends quiet time reflecting on his life and career, and guest rooms that are frequently occupied by fellow cricketers, business associates, and friends from around the world, who visit this humble legend. But perhaps the most important aspect of Mahela's post-cricket life is his charitable work through the Mahela Foundation, an organization dedicated to fighting cancer in memory of his brother Dishal, who died from brain cancer when he was just 12 years old. This foundation has quietly become one of Sri Lanka's most effective charitable organizations, providing free cancer treatment to families who cannot afford private health care, organizing medical camps in remote villages where people have limited access to specialized doctors, funding research into better cancer treatments, and supporting families through the emotional trauma of dealing with this devastating disease. Mahela has personally funded cancer treatment for over 500 families, has raised millions of dollars for cancer research, and has spent countless hours visiting patients in hospitals, offering encouragement and hope to people fighting the same battle that his younger brother ultimately lost. One story that particularly demonstrates Mahela's commitment to this cause involves a young boy named Kasun, who was diagnosed with the same type of brain tumor that killed Dishal 28 years earlier. When Mahela learned about this case, he not only funded the boy's complete treatment but also stayed closely involved with the family throughout the entire process, visiting Kasun in the hospital, encouraging him during difficult treatments, and celebrating every small victory in his recovery. Today, Kasun is completely healthy and dreams of becoming a professional cricketer like his hero, representing the kind of life-changing impact that Mahela's foundation has achieved for hundreds of families across Sri Lanka. Mahela's influence on the next generation of cricket players cannot be overstated, as he continues to mentor young talents through both formal coaching roles and informal guidance that has shaped the careers of numerous international players. His approach to mentoring goes far beyond just technical cricket skills. He teaches young players about mental toughness, about handling pressure, about maintaining perspective when success comes easily and resilience when failures inevitably occur. Many current Sri Lankan international players credit Mahela with helping them develop not just as cricketers but as people, learning from his example about how to conduct themselves with dignity and professionalism both on and off the field. His impact extends internationally as well, with players from around the world seeking his advice and learning from his tactical innovations that have influenced cricket strategies globally. Through his coaching work with Mumbai Indians, his commentary on international broadcast, and his involvement in various cricket development programs, Mahela has helped spread his philosophy of intelligent, respectful, team-oriented cricket to new generations of players who will carry these lessons throughout their career. The leadership principles that Mahela developed during his playing career have also influenced leaders in other fields, with business executives, military officers, and political leaders studying his approach to managing high-pressure situations, building team unity, and maintaining composure during crises. His autobiography, which is expected to be published in the next few years, is already being anticipated as a masterclass in leadership that will provide valuable insights for anyone in a position of responsibility. As we look toward the future, it's clear that Mahela Jayawardene's story is far from over, with new chapters being written every day through his foundation work, his business ventures, his ongoing involvement in cricket, and his role as a global ambassador for Sri Lanka. At 47 years old, he has already achieved more than most people accomplish in multiple lifetimes, but his hunger to make a positive impact on the world remains as strong as ever. His plans for the coming years include expanding his foundation's work to other South Asian countries, establishing cricket academies in underserved communities, and continuing to use his platform to promote peace, understanding, and cooperation between nations through the universal language of sport. The true measure of Mahela's legacy isn't found in the record book, though his achievements there are certainly impressive. Over 11,000 runs in both tests and ODIs, the highest test score by a Sri Lankan player, multiple World Cup finals, championship victories as both player and coach, and recognition as one of the greatest batsmen of his generation. His real legacy lies in the lives he has touched, the young players he has inspired, the cancer patients he has helped save, the leadership principles he has demonstrated, and the example he has set for how sports celebrities can use their fame and resources to make the world a better place. The promise he made at his brother's funeral 28 years ago has been fulfilled in ways that even a grieving 16-year-old could never have imagined, not just through cricket records and championships, but through hundreds of lives saved, thousands of young players inspired, and millions of people around the world who have learned that greatness comes not from talent alone, but from the courage to transform pain into purpose, tragedy into triumph, and personal success into service to others. That 16-year-old boy standing at his brother's grave could never have predicted that his promise would lead to a life so rich, so meaningful, so perfectly dedicated to honoring the memory of a 12-year-old who never got the chance to fulfill his own dreams, but whose spirit continues to inspire incredible achievements through his older brother's remarkable journey. And that's the complete story of Mahela Jayawardene, a man who turned the worst tragedy of his life into unlimited motivation, who built a cricket legacy that will never be forgotten, who accumulated wealth and success without losing his humanity, who used his platform to save lives and inspire generations, and who proves every day that the greatest champions are those who lift others up along the way. If this incredible journey has inspired you to chase your own dreams with greater determination, to treat others with more kindness and respect, or to find ways to make a positive difference in your community, then Mahela's story has achieved its most important purpose. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell, because next week we're bringing you the equally incredible story of Kumar Sangakkara, Mahela's best friend and cricket partner, including secrets about their friendship that will absolutely blow your mind. Share this video with anyone who needs inspiration. Comment below about which part of Mahela's story moved you the most. And remember that your own story of greatness is waiting to be written. All you need is the courage to begin.